So,
Okay, great. Well, I will call the June 16th, 2020 Upper Arlington Public Library Board of Trustees meeting to order. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
second.
Thanks. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? The motion passes. Okay, we don't have any public comments that I know of. Kate, would you like to give us your report, please?
Sure, a few updates for this evening. Number one, I know we've talked a lot about curbside service, and we've made a change. So we do have appointments, but we're also officially stating that we're taking, when folks just drive up to. So it's going to be a nice mix of both, and that'll show up in people's notices. So if any of your neighbors or friends say, gosh, gee, it takes me a week to get an appointment, tell them not to worry. It's okay just to show up too. So wanted to get that word out. Number two, we've talked a lot about summer reading club. And again, it's hard to do a lot of advertising and do it like usual since we're closed. However, if you drive by Tremont Lane or Miller Park, you'll see the new banners up on each building advertising that you can participate and get online. So at least there's something that you can count on this summer still happening like usual. Third thing, we've talked about our story walk before at Fancyburg Park. And we do have, in the coming weeks, we're going to put in the updated story. That's at least, again, something we can do, even though the building is closed. And the last thing is we're getting ready to do our first virtual presenter. We've done, you've seen our presentations by our own staff, and we've got our weekly schedule of our story times and our tech programs. But one of our regular programs that are presenters that usually comes to the library, Joni Callum, we've got a youth program scheduled for July 23rd at 11 a.m. on Facebook Live. So we're going to dip our toes into doing programming with others from the outside. So just, I don't have much other programming news I can share, but I can share that with you tonight.
Oh, I think you're on mute, Gloria.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Kate, very much. Glad to hear everything's going okay. I know I've had a lot of people say how excited they are to be able to get books again. And, a lot of people asking when, and I've talked to Beth about this too, when we're going to be open more. But we'll get there. We'll get there. Okay, I'll turn it over to Beth for her report.
I think first I wanted to ask the board, I'd like to plan a July board meeting. We normally don't have a board meeting in July, but I'd like to put one on for July 22nd and have a finance committee meeting on July 15th. We're planning on getting the numbers. We've been really keeping an eye on the public library fund. So wanting to make sure that we're making the right decisions moving forward, and it will be really imperative for us to meet to discuss, where we are going as far as operations, considering the PLF. So I just wanted to mention that first. As far as my report, as Kate said, we're offering a lot of we're offering curbside service. We're still doing chat. We're answering the phones. We're checking in and checking out a lot of material. We've started to allow patrons in for limited computer access. So we've been allowing a few people in the building at a time by appointment. I wanted to give you a snapshot so that everyone has an understanding of sort of what our operations look like right now that we've had to furlough 70 of our part-time staff due to the loss in revenue from the state. So normally the public service staff that we have at our main location, we have 59 staff working in public service, and currently we have 20. Administration and some of our other staff have been working to help in public service, but the core amount of people we have is significantly less due to the amount of people that we have on furlough. So obviously we had to reduce our hours. We used to be open 63 hours a week, and now we're only open 46. But if you look at the next, our physical checkouts, so this is not including any kind of e-media or overdrive, anything like that. But the physical checkouts we did last year in May were over 43,000. We did 2,700 in May, but we were only open for half the month. Then you can see starting in June with curbside picking up, that first week of June, of last year, we did a little over 10,000. And we did 50% of our circulation that first week of June this year. So considering the fact that we're doing all of that circulation by hand, checking out all of those materials for people coming into picking up curbside, staff is working tremendously hard to get materials into the hands of our public. So it's a lot of work, and our staff are working very hard. Check-ins, we've had, if you look at the check-in numbers, we checked in over 115,000 items in the month of May last year. We checked in almost 12,000 in May. And again, we didn't open book drops until almost the very end of May. So that last week of May, in 1 week, we checked in 12,000 items. So our book drops have been, just overflowing with materials coming back. We have to quarantine those for 3 days before we can check them in. So I just wanted to give you a snapshot of just how hard our staff are working during this time. I'm incredibly proud of everything that they've been doing. So that's really all for my report. As far as reopening plans, we have a staff team meeting this week, and we're going to discuss opening date and opening strategy. And hopefully I'll have an announcement within the next couple of weeks on when that will be and what it will look like.
Beth?
Yes.
What does this information you just shared suggest to you for the future?
We need our staff back. As hard as my staff are working, I can tell you that it's an extreme amount of work for so few people, and we cannot continue this pace. And so we've been looking at numbers and figuring out, when can we bring staff back? When can we do that, financially as well as logistically, because we still have to maintain our social distancing and things like that. Yeah, it's a lot of work, and we definitely need the staff that we had before in order to be able to open, all the hours that the library used to be open, and to be able to do all of that work.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, John.
Okay. Okay. So, Beth, were you going to talk about, you're not going to talk about the levy or the strategic plan?
Yeah, so I just wanted to pause to see if there were any additional questions for just for that part of the report. So I did reach out to Bricker and Eckler we know that we were planning on a levy for the fall of next year. I did want to bring you up to date, as I've learned earlier today, that the schools have decided to postpone their levy. They had a special meeting on June 8th. I'm trying to get details on specifically when they might be on the ballot, but that may change our timeline. So the timeline that I've shared with you was based on assuming that the schools were going on this fall, which is no longer the case. I'd like to, ask, we have a decision to make, looking forward. If the schools are on in the fall, do we still want to go on in the fall, or do we want to postpone into the spring? So if you want to think about that a little bit, that'll be something that we can discuss, and I can reach out and create an updated timeline if we decide to push back a little bit.
Beth, when did you say the school was going for it next spring?
They don't know. I don't know. So all I know is they're not going on in the fall. So I don't know if they're going on in the spring or in the fall. I reached out to the schools to find out more information, and they said they're going to get back to me.
Well, does anybody have a thought about, how long do you, Beth, and maybe Lori, what kind of flexibility do we have, or do we have any in terms of timing?
Oh, Lori, you think, I can't hear you, Lori.
Sorry. If we don't go on next November, then we have the opportunity to go on in May. And then in worst case scenario, if it did not pass, we would have August, but we would be cutting it close because the levy expires next November.
Okay,
Yeah, of 2022, correct?
2022.
Yes.
Yeah, 2022.
Yes.
My gut instinct, though, is not to be on the ballot at the same time as the schools. I just think
Yeah.
that's too much.
Yeah,
I agree.
that's usually the strategy that most libraries take. But I do know that we had planned on going a year ahead of time. So I just wanted to verify, that with you and share that information. And I'll reach out to Bricker and Eckler and get an updated timeline, let's say if we go in the spring of 2022 instead.
Did you get any insight as to why the schools postponed? Is it because of all the turmoil over the virus? Is it something else? Are they better off than they thought?
I don't know. I tried to go online. They did not record or post their June 8th special meeting. So
Well, the public records law.
Yeah,
Public
I'm
meeting.
sure the minutes will be posted at some point, but I wasn't able to find them as of yet.
Beth,
And
is it
I,
worth considering May of 2021, or is that too early?
I think we can't go on any earlier than a year. I'm pretty sure.
We have to be at least within a year of
Right.
the expiration of the current.
Yeah.
license?
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
What's been our experience with May ballot initiatives? How have those gone relative to November? I mean, it seems to me May is it's going to be much harder to get turnout.
Mhm.
right.
What's going on, and that may not work in our favor.
Well, I know for the renewal in 2012, I'm pretty sure that was in May, and that did pass. It really is. A lot of it is going to depend on what we're doing, I think. And one of the things that I've talked with Gloria and Peter about is potentially doing some community polling to see what the community would be in support of. But I'm working through the details of that now, how that needs to be paid for, the timeline for that, and that's all dependent upon, when we're going to the ballot and things like that.
Well, I think, yes, I'm unmuted. I think the library traditionally is always well supported, but I agree with Kevin that, turnout is always harder to get, I think, in May. And of course, this year would be the ideal time to go, but it's not the time for us to go. And I think the schools are probably struggling with that as well. But I think, and Bill, I've only heard just a little bit of discussion about, I think a lot of it had to do with the virus, but also just the change in economics, the change in focus of where people are directing
Lot
their
of uncertainty,
funds. I think the schools, the sense I had from the people I've talked to is that they just are a little bit hesitant to go out and ask for money right now. So I guess I don't know for sure. And I know Beth has been trying to get an answer. And I think the board was going to meet this week as well, either last night or tonight.
It's tonight.
Yeah.
As we
Because I
speak.
thought about it. After I talked to you,
Yeah.
I said, oh
Right.
my gosh, I think they meet on Tuesdays now.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll know more by later this week, about their reasoning and what their decision is. So,
You know what would be helpful in the interim is if you can go back 4 or 5 levies and see if they were spring or fall and what the outcome was.
right.
That way we have a factual basis to take a look. see.
Yeah, I can get that information. I had been looking at the levy documents from 2016 and 2012, and I do know that the one in 2012 was in May, but 2016 I'm not sure. I'm gonna go back and look.
I'm pretty sure that was in November.
That
It
was
was
in November. Yeah, we were part of that, Gloria
Okay.
Yes.
and Bill. And what do you hope to get from the polling, Beth? When to go, or?
I think what I'm looking for is to see what the community would be in support of. If the library decides to do a replacement levy, if we decide to do a renewal with an increase, I want to know what the community would be supportive of. You know, we know that we've lost a significant amount of revenue this year. I don't know how well the economy is going to pick up next year. We know that we were you know, looking at you know, if we're going to continue on the revenue stream that we were working with, or the operations that we were working with, and we were going to have to come to the community at some point if we didn't see an increase in the PLF, or we were going to have to make some significant cuts. So I really want to know what the community would be in support of.
Okay, thanks.
And Beth, would you remind me, I know we've talked about this, but do you have an idea of how much that will cost and who's going to pay for it?
For the polling?
Yes.
So right now I'm trying to figure out whether or not the polling or the surveying needs to come out from the levy campaign, or if that's something that can come out of operations. The quote that I have so far is about $15,000. It's a 5-week process. And they do phone surveys with very in-depth questions. They do interviews, and then they present those results to the board. So it is a significant cost, but considering, I think that if we were going to ask the community for more, I would feel more confident having that data and being able to give that to the board to make, you know, a decision based on, you know, information that we have, you know, rather than just guessing, you know, at what the community would be supportive.
And the reason I ask that is because the money in the levy account is a little more than $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, my concern is, you know,
Yeah.
how do we pay for that and
Right.
pay for the levy?
Right. It's good. So if we can't take that from operations, I don't know if we'll be able to do it or not. It's my hope that we would be able to, but I'm still getting information from OLC on that.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe the Friends would pay for it.
Possibly. That was a suggestion that one of my admin team brought up. So
The other thing you might look at, if I recall, we had a relatively robust fundraising support for the library PAC committee. I don't know what the amount was, so it might be good to go back and see.
yeah.
If it turns out they raised $40,000 without any problem, that's one set. If it turns out they struggled to raise 10,
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, fundraising is definitely an option, and we would need to do fundraising regardless to raise money for the following levy. I do know the Friends donate every year to the levy campaign, so yeah, I'm working on through all of that stuff right now.
In some ways, fundraising is a good thing to generate support for levy, because then you hit up the chamber and the Rotary and people like that and get them engaged in the process.
Right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So, well, good. We can, I mean, you know, you're ahead of the game, I feel like, and, you know, we have time to figure this out. And it sounds, Lori, you feel comfortable with this too?
Yes.
Okay.
And then there is a ballot workshop tomorrow. I think, Stephen, are you attending that as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll see you tomorrow virtually. So, but yeah, there's a lot of good information that OLC shares about, you know, running a levy campaign. And I think this will be the 3rd time I'm taking it. So
Good.
good
Okay.
to be prepared.
Yeah, you might ask them tomorrow what the experience statewide has been on fall levies versus spring levies.
Yeah, definitely.
Any pattern. You know, every community is different, but it'd be good to know.
Right. Right.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And we don't really know what the city is going to do either, if they are going to do anything relevant to the community center, you know, that too.
Yeah, oh, that's a good question.
We have a call on Friday with the city manager, and we're going to have a conversation and share with them some of our plans for levy as well. You know, so yeah, we're going to be in contact with them. So if there's any information that I can share with you at that point, I will.
Right. Great. Okay. All right.
Anything
Any
else
other
with
questions?
levy?
Sorry. Any other questions about the levy situation? Okay, and you want to talk about the
Yeah,
strategic?
so
plan?
strategic plan, really there isn't a lot of difference. The one thing that you had requested of me the last time that we had talked strategic planning was prioritizing our initiatives. And so I took the liberty of reorganizing our strategic plan. All of the goals and all of the items that are listed in conjunction with those goals are the same. I haven't changed anything. But instead of having them, in sort of in these squares, this is more of a roadmap. So starting with our data and looking at, all of the information that we're collecting, all of the data that we're collecting, how much of it are we collecting, what are we collecting, how often and how, and why, and looking at all of that information, and then moving forward, once we have an idea of all of the data that we collect and why we collect it, and seeing if there is information that we aren't collecting that we should, and how do we do that, moving into marketing and communication, using that information to develop a marketing and communications plan, then moving on to our use of space, and then finally ending with customer experience. So instead of looking at all of these, at one time, it'll flow from one to the other over the course of 5 years. I had shared this with operations and seemed to be taken well. There were some language suggestions as far as the data component. So, and I haven't changed that yet. I've been asking my team to come up with ideas, but I just wanted to share with you the preliminary plan. And if you're amenable to this, I would want to reach out to Benefactor to start with next steps in figuring out measurables.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that came out in the operations committee meeting was that some of these, even though this is linear, are happening at the same time.
Yeah, right.
Beth, I think the logic of this is absolutely correct. I worry, and if this is only me, you can forget it. So I asked some other people who are more, more marketing oriented.
Sure.
But you look at, the first thing you look at is the upper left-hand corner is impact and accountability.
Mhm.
And that's important, but it seems to me, all these are driving towards the customer experience. So the eye grab should be the customer experience, not the other stuff. That's my only, and if I'm the only one that thinks that, I am prepared to go back into my hole.
Actually, Bill, I raised the same question in the operations committee about that. And when Beth said that this is more of a roadmap, we may reorder things for a levy or for a marketing campaign, but yeah, it all leads to customer. I thought customer first and impact last. So that's when I said,
it's more of changing the language, because really impact and accountability, that would be the final result. But really I want to change that title to something related to data, looking at information and being able to collect all of that information, because once we have the information, that will lead into identifying and refining our programming priorities, looking at our collections, understanding how we attract and retain our staff. But we need all of the data collected first before we can make those decisions, which is why the customer experience came last.
well, this is a good working first cut working draft, and I'd like your suggestions for wording changes, because of the customer experience. You want customer experience and impact.
Right, customer experience.
Okay.
Well, I like the sounds of it too. And I think Benefactor, when you go back to Benefactor, they may have, if they have suggestions,
Right.
We should take advantage of that. So
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, any other questions about the plan, strategic plan? Okay, thank you very much, Beth. I know you guys have had a lot on your plate and having to come back and, do this too. So we appreciate it.
Sure.
Next is the Finance Committee, and Lori, are you going to do that, or?
How about I'll give my report and then Kevin can do the minutes from the Finance Committee, if that's okay.
Okay.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay. I wanted to update you where we stand on our cash reserves. If you have your packet in front of you on page 12, it shows our unencumbered balance at the end of May, which is over 3.5 million. If you can consider that with our average expenditures, which are about $490,000 a month, we have 7.2 months of operating reserves. I know that's something that we've looked at in the finance committee. Our goal originally was to have 3 to 6 months. We're a little over that right now. If you compare it to last May of 2019, we had 6.3 months operating reserves. But of course, we were operating at full capacity, which we aren't right now. So that's just to give you an idea of where we are at the end of May. Is there any questions or concerns?
Lori, that's a helpful thing to know. Would you mind including just a matter of routine? that
Yeah, I'm going to include
measure
in
in
the
each
monthly report. Yeah, it'll be in the monthly report, so you'll know where we stand at the end of each month.
Okay.
I also, I'm sorry.
That'd be good. I just my recollection, and I haven't gone back to look at my minutes from other meetings. I thought our goal was somewhere between 3 to 4 months, but I haven't been on the finance committee, so I don't know. Can anybody talk to anybody else remember that, or am I off base?
I think it was sort of a minimum goal.
Okay.
I thought the target was 6 months.
Pardon?
I thought the target was 6 months.
I think what we wanted to do is make sure we had a minimum of 3 to 4. I don't recall it going up. It's not that 6 was a bad thing. And what you do is you build it up for times like this. But I'm not sure the goal was to continually have it at 6. I don't remember that.
I actually thought it was in the 3 to 4 range myself.
Yeah.
So,
It may have been a dream I had.
But whatever it is, we should define what we want to do. And probably after we look at where we are in the budget in July, kind of tie that into it too. And because we're going to be heading for a levy, we're going to need to articulate where we want to be, where we are, and that kind of thing. So we can kind of look at this all as one big package.
I know the bill always warns about the risk of having too much, is that if you go for a levy with too much money in the bank, you may get a question of why do we need more money? We got plenty in the bank.
Yeah. So we've got to turn that argument around in a thoughtful way.
right. And for these days in particular, I
Yeah.
think you can maybe justify it a little bit more. But
Yeah, it makes an easier sell to tell somebody, well, you remember a year and a half ago when we got no revenue, and so we have to have a good reserve, solid reserve.
true. You could do that. Too. You could do that. Okay, thank you, Lori. Anything
I have
else?
one other thing.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to let you know, I got the PLF today. It was a little over $210,000. It was 13% lower than what we expected, which ended up being almost $30,000 lower than anticipated. For the months of April, May, and June, we've lost about $136,000 in PLF.
Okay.
Another thing I wanted to update you on some good news, the big give through the Columbus Foundation, we received donations of $9,245. So that will go into our account at the Columbus Foundation. We currently have a balance in our account there of $18,670. And that amount was put in there when the Library Foundation dissolved. And part of that money was put into the Columbus Foundation, and another portion was put into our Fund 250 account that we have. So now we will have over $27,000 in the Columbus Foundation, something that we may want to tap into going forward should we need it for any projects. We've never used it since we set up the account.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and that's another one, probably before the levy, we had to figure out what we're going to do with that money and how we're going to characterize it.
Exactly. I agree. And we may get a little bit more, Lori. Am I correct on that? If when they do the divvying out the pot.
Correct. The matching will come in a check to us, and I'm not sure what that'll be. Usually we don't know until it turns up, but the other donations will go directly into our account at Columbus Foundation. The check that I do receive for the matching, we're going to put in our donation fund 130.
Okay.
The other thing to be prepared, the state released its budget numbers for May, and they weren't quite as bad on the income and sales tax as everybody feared. And that will translate to the PLF. So it'll be down, but it may not be down over the short run as much as the 30% we thought. On the other hand, nobody really knows what's going to happen in the fall, if there's a blowback and all that kind of thing.
Right.
So we will have some interesting issues to discuss at the July meeting about how we balance all this going forward.
I totally
I have-
agree with
I'm
Bill.
sorry. I have got word that next month PLF is estimated between 12 and 14% lower. So we'll see where we end up.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you very much, Lori. Kevin?
Yeah, I think Lori hit the highlights. We reviewed the financials. We spent a lot of time in our meeting, which was last Wednesday, talking about the levy. We started to look at the budget and also reviewed some of the major items in the capital budget. As you recall, we had deferred moving 300,000 from the operating fund to the building improvement fund. So we're starting to look at those numbers as well. But that will be the focus of the meeting in July when we have a little bit more information from the state. The only other thing I would mention is we had a certificate of deposit that matured at First Merchants Bank. We decided to take those proceeds and move them over to Star Ohio to take advantage of a better interest rate there. So those are really the highlights from the minutes.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Anybody? Okay, thank you, Finance Committee and Lori. Next, we'll have the Operations Committee June meeting minutes.
We've already talked about much of what we discussed at our Operations Committee meeting on the 2nd. We talked about a reopening plan and the high volume of items that need to be checked in. We discussed a flood that occurred at the main library last month. Greg was working on getting quotes to fix the problem, and then maybe working with insurance company to see if it's worth making a claim, see what the value of the loss was. We discussed a strategic plan. Beth reported that we are no longer seeking a marketing consultant due to the budget cuts. And then we discussed the big give, and sounds like we had a pretty good result from that effort.
I have a question about the big give. Is, Lori, the number you gave us the number of donations or the number of donations plus whatever the foundation matches?
You're on mute, Lori.
Sorry, the 9,245 is just donations. The matching will come later.
Oh, okay. And our history's been, the match has been how much percentage-wise, the range?
Well, they don't have an exact formula. We're estimating maybe anywhere from $500 to $600. In the past, it's been much lower, but they don't advertise exactly what the match is. So it's kind of just, we're going to wait and see what we get.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Peter. Any questions to Peter, Operations Committee? Okay. If not, I guess we did talk, Beth and Peter and I talked about upcoming board appointments, but it looks like we do not have any for this coming year. So we have our trustees set, and we'll work together for another year with all of us who are here, and there won't be an opportunity for anyone else to join us for right now. So one thing we won't have to deal with this year.
Well,
You can be happy
Be stuck
together.
with us.
we'd like to have this team together for a while instead of go through as many
Oh,
yes.
changes as we've had.
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. We have a great board, I think. So I appreciate everybody who's here and all that we've been able to do so far. And we have some pretty big challenges ahead, I think. But I continue to think that everybody just loves the library, and they're can't wait for us to be back on board. And so, I think we're very lucky on that count for sure. Well, if we don't have anything else, if anyone else is what
I
a-
enjoy having family members join us.
We have a new board member.
yes. Okay,
Remind me,
and
Beth, when the July meeting you'd like to have?
July 22nd. It's a Wednesday.
Okay,
Allison will send out a reminder or calendar
Yes,
appointment for us.
please.
So that's a Wednesday, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
had to
I
check.
wanted to schedule it a week after Finance Committee. Finance will meet on the 15th.
Okay. So it will be July 22nd at 5 p.m. as
Yes.
far as we know now.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, that sounds good. And we know, I mean, you're good, Beth, about keeping us posted on what's happening. And we will let everybody else know about anything we need to after our Friday meeting as well.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And once and like I said, I'm meeting with staff as far as reopening plans. So as soon as I have, solidified information about when we're opening and what that looks like, I'll share that with you. We'll be sending out a press release, posting information to our website. So we'll try to get the word out as soon as we can.
Okay, great. We appreciate it. Okay, if no one has any other question, comment, concern, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second,
And
Second.
any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Thank you, everybody,
Thank you,
very,
everyone.
very much. Take care. Enjoy
Yes.
your summers and summer. And we'll stay in touch.